Self-counsel, counseling ourselves. Man, it will get us in trouble every time. Left to ourselves, we can rationalize just about anything, even sin. Here are some examples from Scripture of self-counsel, and they didn't end up well. So running from Saul and exhausted, David thought to himself, self-counsel, one of these days I'm going to be destroyed by the hand of Saul. The best thing I can do is to escape to the land of the Philistines. Don't do it, David. Joining the enemy forces is not a good idea. To make a long story short, the episode ended with David's men almost stoning him to death. There's another one. In the turmoil following Solomon's death, this king Jeroboam, who was contending for leadership, you ready? Thought to himself, self-counsel, the kingdom will now likely revert to the house of David. To keep this from happening, he built golden calves for the people to worship instead of the living God. Not a good idea. You can read all about that in 1 Kings 12. Haman, here's another one, whose plan was to eliminate the Jews, thought he was going to receive high honor from the king, and so he thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? But in the end, he was honored with a hanging. Well, you can read about that in Esther 6. Jesus told a parable about a rich fool who had more crops than barns, and so the man thought to himself, self-counsel, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. He solved the problem by building bigger barns, but God had other plans. We looked at this just a couple of days ago. You fool, this very night, your life will be demanded from you. And then who's going to get what you prepared for yourself? You can read about that in Luke 12. Self-counsel. I bet each one of us could add a story or two to the list, right? Probably our own personal stories. But the proverb says it this way, Proverbs 15:22. Without counsel, plans fail. But with many advisors, they succeed. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Don't make plans based on self-counsel alone. Find others who love God and who love you and who will speak into your life. Self-counsel is dangerous. And most of the time, it ends up in a very dangerous place. So, Father, help us be wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others. When people thought to themselves, they ended up in places they regretted. Help us to live without those regrets of self-counsel. Help us to look to you and look to godly counselors, Lord, who will give us not just what we want to hear, but what you want us to hear. Guide us to those counselors, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I encourage you to do a study of self-counsel in Scripture. Thought to himself. It never ends up well. But when we have counselors around us who can help us, then we can discern what God has for us to do in our life. Counselors, by the way, who love God and love us. Hey, thanks so much for joining us as we journey through the Proverbs.